Hey, what's up guys? It's Alliteration Gaming here with another deck profile. This time we got my friend Logan taking us through his Nemesis Prime deck list. So take it away, bud.
Alright guys, how are we going today? This deck consists of Flame War, Nemesis Prime, and Thundercracker. I haven't really seen a lot of attention for Nemesis Prime online. A lot of people seem to kind of just be dismissing him. And after playing this deck, I really have no idea why you would dismiss him. This deck is actually really consistent and seems really powerful. My only real concerns for this matchup would be Living Weapon Megatron. It's really my only fear in this deck.
Nemesis Prime is actually an insane card, but not for the reasons you think, and that's going to be kind of what we're really going to focus and get into.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people are focusing on the wrong stuff with Nemesis Prime, so I'm going to give you my kind of take of what's been going on here.
So first, starting with the characters, you got Flame War. Being a 3-10-1 in bot mode, and then a 3-10-1 in alt mode. So why do we play this card, Logan?
Flame War actually sets the tone kind of for the whole match. You flip her turn 1 99% of the time. It gives that tough one. You really don't flip her back unless you're just reaching for a Nemesis Prime deck mill.
Yeah, because you're just getting one more card.
Other than that, she's never going to flip again.
Yeah,
so
this is a very, very high blue pip defensive deck. So that global tough one is just going to provide insane value to these guys as they do the real work.
That tough one is actually insanely noticeable too.
Yeah,
it makes such a huge difference in this deck.
Like, it constantly reaches that extra double blue or that extra white and just pushes it.
Next I'm actually going to go to Thundercracker.
All right.
Thundercracker is, like we said, this is a very heavy blue deck, so we're not expecting to flip a lot of oranges. So Thundercracker allows us to get that base high damage value without hoping to pull orange.
Yeah, so Thundercracker is essentially an extremely conveniently costed 8-star to fit in exactly with the 25. He's the hitter alongside Nemesis. He's what hits while Nemesis sets up.
Yeah, while Nemesis is scaling, Thundercracker's kind of your hard hitter.
Yeah.
Which usually also pulls a lot of pressure off of Nemesis early game because people see, oh god, Thundercracker's swinging for like 15. So we need to deal with him. And by the time they finally kill Thundercracker, Nemesis is just ready to go.
Yeah,
and he's just starting to one-shot people.
Yeah, Brainstorms leap into battles, bigger they are. Thundercracker will get like legit huge.
The highest I've gotten him to is about 19, I think.
Yeah.
Which is just straight ridiculous.
Insane. And then the 12 health with the 1 defense seems fragile, but the deck plays into it. Like, it'll take usually 3 to 4 attacks to kill this character. With how much you get the defense going with the tough and the blue pips, it's crazy. And then the alt mode just being a flip to go into 2 damage on a melee enemy, Which I've
actually found insane value out of. That burn 2 on a melee is how I kill Shrapnel every friggin' time.
Yeah.
I hit him twice and burn him for the rest, and that has consistently made him not a problem for me.
And that's a relevant card.
Shrapnel's a very relevant character in this whole match.
And you have Big Daddy Nemesis Prime.
So Nemesis is pretty much the core mechanic of the deck, obviously. I've wanted this character basically since I saw set 1.
Yeah, coming in at 7-16-2, and then 6-16-2 on his truck side.
So the burn 2 side, we don't really see a whole lot of play out of. I do use it. I have found it to be very good in the tankier mirror matches, because that burn 2 just going through guaranteed is very good and it's very noticeable. But towards like aggro matches, I'm not so much trying to flip him.
We're swinging for 10.
Pretty much, yeah. We're pretty much more focused on the swing for 10.
Yeah, so when you're reshuffling your scrap pile into your deck, Nemesis gets an extra 3 attack.
Now, being this is a Nemesis Prime deck, I know a lot of people like to play him with like a bold aggro theme with orange pips. Whereas, you know, sure, you can get him through his deck pretty fast that way, but you don't really tend to get past 1 mil of your deck before he just kind of dies in an orange deck. Whereas I wanted to push for the consistently getting through my deck multiple times before he's able to die. Because 16 health is actually an insane amount of health. Yeah,
16 health is insane. It really, really caters to pushing more towards a defensive deck. Even though bold is generally a little easier to acquire in mass amounts than tough, it's still substantially better than Nemesis just dying the second he gets set up.
Yeah, and this deck really has shown me the value of tough, whereas I used to think bold was like all there was in this game, because tough kind of seemed really lackluster. So I guess we'll go ahead and go to the deck build itself now. Now this is a control deck. It's meant to control while it's scaling. So we are running things like 3 security checkpoints, 3 disruptive entrants, and 3 system reboots.
So these 3 cards kind of go in the general theme of either stopping your opponent from making their plays while you set up and start scaling, and also going through your deck. So system reboot being Each player scraps their hands and draw 4 cards. Checkpoint being each player reveals their hand and scraps all upgrades. And entrance being each player reveals their you reveal your hand and then you scrap an action from your opponent's hand. So these just kind of keep playing that general theme of stopping your opponent from making really big plays to disrupt you in the early game, and then just being able to go through your deck really fast.
And as opposed to a lot of decks where you see security checkpoint, this card is not actually ran for the double blue in this deck. This card is actually meant to see play.
Yeah, the double blue is extremely
double blue is
good,
extremely useful.
Extremely useful.
It is like a 60-40 split, but it is actually meant to see play. Then of course we just have, some power cards coming in. So, this deck is not going to be flipping orange pips, so base numbers is really what we're shooting for.
Yeah, so Leap into Battle, giving us +3 attack on a character, +4 on Thundercracker, hitting up to base 9 is insane. And then the bigger they are, being a really interesting card. So this card gives a character +2 attack. Then if it attacks an enemy that has more stars than it, it gets Pierce 4. So this is what makes Flame War hit really hard. Going into 5 attack with Pierce 4 is really, really nice. And it can also work on Thundercracker against a lot of things, him being simply 8 stars.
Yeah, I have had the plays come out where, as you're going to see, I am running Brainstorm in this deck.
Yeah.
Brainstorm into double the bigger they are, swinging into a rare prime is actually just insane.
Yeah, swinging into Rare Prime, swinging into an enemy Nemesis, swinging into Living Weapon Megatron, swinging into the Bible.
Then of course we're going to go into some draw power. We don't really need a whole lot of it. We're mostly just trying to burn our deck. We're not in too desperate need of needing cards in our hands, so we're not really running any more draw power past that.
Yeah, the characters are the real strength here. This is kind of just to get us through the deck a little faster.
Yeah, you will see there is more draw power later, but it's not really... You're not using the draw power for the turn you get it. It's more so just to burn through your deck than it is to get those cards in your hand. We're running 2 swap missions because, let's be real, unless you're have the bigger they are or Leap into Battle in your hands, Flame War's not doing anything when she swings, so it's much better to get a swing out of one of the other 2.
Yeah, being able to turn your Flame War swing into a Nemesis Prime swing for the turn, or even a Thundercracker swing if you have to set up for it afterwards.
Infinite value.
It is going to bump them up to 6 after you play that.
We're also running, the 3 Brainstorms.
3 Brainstorms. You may play an action, then you may play another action. Just gets the combos going, especially with the power gaining actions on a Thundercracker. It's insane.
Yeah, this sets up infinite Thundercracker plays.
The value in this card in this deck is
Brainstorm
insane.
is really aimed to help Thundercracker more than Nemesis, but for turns where you're not using Thundercracker, you can kind of use Brainstorm to play off like a disruptive entrance into a security checkpoint. And it's pretty insane for control, being that you're not trying to gain the power cards for Thundercracker. Next we're going to go into upgrades. So first we're going to do Energon Axe.
So this is what you want on all of your characters, essentially.
Yeah, because you are a blue deck, this is going to sit around for a while unless they break it. And you're definitely going to get to pick up value for this pretty quickly. Yeah,
+3 attack and Pierce 2 is insane. 13 on Nemesis, 8 on Thundercracker getting boosted by actions. It's crazy.
And then 6 on Flame War. It's actually just ridiculous how much value. This card was already good in everyone's eyes, and then the amount of value it gains in this deck is
and the clause of being able to only put on damage characters plays perfectly into this deck because you're taking such small packets of damage as you go through the game.
Yeah. So next we're going to have some armor upgrades.
So first we have Reinforced Plating, just giving tough 2. Seems really, really mediocre, but it's actually insane in this deck.
This is actually the go-to armor you want in this deck.
Yeah, you want this on every one of your characters.
Once this is on somebody, you're not really replacing it. But to back up, at a 2 of, we are running Blast Shield, because that +2 armor is just really, really good.
Yeah, it's super nice. But like Reinforced Plating will usually result in like extra 2 to 4 armor, let's say, which is pretty much always better than Blast Shield anyway. And it stays. But again, it's the backup.
So now we're going to go into a little bit of utility of the deck. I recently was playing Rapid Conversion in this slot, but I swapped it to Databank.
So Databank just letting us draw a card at the start of our turn.
Which is pretty much just going to help us do the Nemesis Prime mechanic even faster.
Yeah, so we're burning through our deck while also digging for things we need. Because, like, the second you start getting a lot of these really good actions to combo off, like, you can make big plays that are hard to come back from.
Yeah.
And seeing the important weapons and armors on your character that you want them on is also, like, really important.
I found the difference in Databank or Rapid Conversion is choosing what you personally think has a better value, burning your opponent more with Thundercracker and Nemesis, or if you find more value in setting up the Brainstorm plays.
Yeah, and ultimately, if you're setting up those plays, you don't need to be doing burn damage because
Exactly.
like your guy's just going to go in.
So you're going to be able to set up more Pierce plays, etc.
And I mean, these cards are going to last like these characters stay alive so long.
Yeah, I can't stress enough how long this deck survives.
Yeah, if you pop a data bank off early game, it will result in probably like 3 to 5 draws by the end of the game unless your opponent gets rid of it.
It is quite common that when your opponent swings at you in this deck, you block for 6 to 12.
Yeah, that's the average defense based on your tough.
So next we're going to go into Debilitating Crystal. There's obviously no other answer for Force Field in this deck.
Yeah, because you don't want to play ramming speeds because it's an orange pip.
Yeah, and because you are hitting for base numbers, you kind of want to make sure your numbers stick. So this is kind of a way to get through all kind of armors, like blast shields, reinforced platings. Yeah. And most importantly, it is to get rid of Pierce weapons. Because Pierce is actually the key to beating this. Yeah. It's just, this deck has such a hard time against a Pierce deck.
And ultimately, like, a lot of your aggression plays are based off of making big swings with these two, and you need those to not get bodied by a force field.
Exactly.
It's extremely important.
So, and then finally, this is obviously here for the double pips. We do not really ever intend to attach this to anyone.
Yeah, because what use is bold in this deck? Because, surprise, what does this deck have none of, Logan?
There's 0 orange pips in this deck, and I have actually found no reason to put an orange pip in this deck. Originally, I had Grenade Launcher in the build, and every time I saw it, I was like, God, I wish this was not Grenade Launcher.
Yeah.
So, another thing about this deck is every single card has a pip. That is the other trick here. Because a lot of people think I Still Function is one of those cards that just needs to be in everything. This build is not going to summon somebody for 1 turn and kill somebody with that.
No.
So there's really no point of even running the card.
Your card's also... The deck is supposed to make them not die.
Exactly. They're supposed to survive as long as possible. You're really not pushing a game agenda that involves bringing someone back. Once someone dies, you're kind of just moving on to the next character. Which is why Thundercracker and Nemesis are both in the deck together, is because I've been able to close out mini games with either one, not so much one being more important than the other.
Yeah, because ultimately the chain of attacks is if they focus Thundercracker, then you get too much time to build up Nemesis, and then he's just a monster.
He scales insanely hard.
Yeah, if they go all in and manage to take down Nemesis early, Thundercracker is still a huge.
He's still swinging for 11 plus when he swings. Like that is still a very big number. So it kind of balanced each other out, and because of how long it takes to kill one or the other, by the time they finally kill one, the other one doesn't really have damage on them.
Yeah, it's very hard to manage the damage across these characters.
I've had scenarios where Nemesis was the only one left on my field, and they had all 3 people left, and I still won within the next 3 swings. Because it still took them so much longer to finish off Nemesis Prime.
Yeah, that 16 health to chew through all of this blue is just... ridiculous.
A common mistake I found people playing against my deck was they swing for Flame War and they try to knock her out early in the game, whereas Flame War, it really should just be ignored.
Yeah.
If you were to ignore Flame War and she's my last one standing, you've pretty much sealed the game.
Yeah, because she's only ever going to hit for 3.
Without the bigger they are, she does like 0 damage.
Yeah.
Even to aggro decks, she may only hit for 1.
And like she'll still take a while to chew through. Because, like, the 10 health with all this blue and the tough one is a lot, but it doesn't matter because she isn't doing anything.
I think, and probably one of the craziest moments I've had with this deck is the fact that, like, I can survive someone swinging for 15 to 20 is insane. So, just the way that things come out with that tough 1 from Flame War and the tough 2 from Reinforced Plating. The deck runs, like, 9 whites, I believe, which means you're pretty common to see them. It's actually a pretty good statistic of seeing them. And then with all the double pips and everything like that, it adds up pretty quick. So the deck definitely survives. My absolute worst matchups are things that involve Megatron.
Either Megatron.
Yeah, either Megatron is fine. It's because Megatron's cannon is actually just insane value against this, especially living weapon-wise, because I cannot get through Pierce 9. I have had that set up against me multiple times. With Debilitating Crystal being really my only way to deal with it, it is a weakness to the deck.
And at the same time, it's just slowing it down a little bit.
It is. But I've also noticed that if my opponent does not run Pierce, I'm consistently at like an 80-20 matchup against them. Like it's very believable that I will win that matchup if they do not have Pierce against me. I have not lost to Insecticons yet with this deck, which I know is everyone's kind of fearing that deck right now on the internet. I have not lost to that deck yet.
How about Dinobots?
Dinobots, I think I've lost once, and that was because I did a dumb thing and just kind of fell into a sludge play.
Yeah.
I kind of let sludge go off, and it was a little too hard to come back from.
Yeah.
Cars, I've only lost once to, but it was literally because my opponent saw all 3 force fields back to back, and I could not break them. So
it definitely seems like playing this deck and playing against it has taught us a lot about the value of blue and defense in this game right now. Whereas I think a lot of people are just very focused on aggro decks right now.
Yeah, whereas aggro offers... aggro v aggro is a really volatile meta. It's fun, don't get me wrong. Flipping, a billion cards with Wheeljack is probably one of the most fun things in this game. But being able to survive 3 to 5 even Wheeljack attacks coming at Nemesis is even more fun to me.
Yeah, it's insane
how long this deck can survive against these aggro decks. Insecticons being able to swing out with 3 people, I don't actually fear that in this deck.
No, it's not scary at all.
And like I said, with Thundercracker being in the deck, Scrapnel is like not actually an issue to me.
Nope.
Because he's a 2-hit kill for me. But yeah, other than that, like, this deck really doesn't have a lot of bad matchups. It's got a really consistent win rate.
I think we've looked at a lot of different ways to play Nemesis right now. I think we are convinced that this is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are really set on the big truck deck, Nemesis Prime and Optimus Prime, which I'm not going to call that a bad deck. I've seen a lot of good statistics with it. But I do think this is a better deck because this does not rely on Cargo Trailer to be your main damage source.
Yeah. This deck doesn't rely on anything.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It really just relies on you just burning through your deck.
Yeah, which is going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
That's how the game works.
And I will say the sackier matchups is obviously drawing the bigger they are and seeing a lot of plays with that because Nemesis is a 12-star character. So he's even able to see value out of this card if you're going against Living Bomb or Battlefield Legend. Mm-hmm. So even Nemesis can see value out of this card.
Or Metroplex.
Or Metroplex, yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah, now that Metroplex is a part of the game, we can even find value in that from right there. Yeah, and even since you mentioned Metroplex, I haven't tested this deck against Metroplex yet, but I don't see it having an issue.
Yeah, I don't imagine it's
definitely going to one-shot the small guys.
Yeah.
Scamper does not stand up to the challenge.
I don't know, man. It's pretty bold.
And tapping out all my characters actually just gives me more Nemesis swings, so I'm actually kind of okay with that.
It simply resets the game state.
It makes me not have to swing a Flame War. So if Metroplex does go off and I lose a Flame War attack, oh no.
Not particularly concerned about that.
So yeah, I think this deck really sets the tone for a meta that we can go into.
Yeah, I think a lot of interesting things are going to start happening with defensive decks. That's what we've been starting to discover as we play more stuff like this.
We're starting to see that aggro needs to start, since we don't have a sideboard in this game, needs to start incorporating at least 3 to 6 slots dedicated to Pierce. Otherwise, you're really not going to be able to kill these kind of decks.
Yeah, you definitely need to be building for a wide range of matchups now.
Absolutely.
Because I think as more people start to play stuff like... I saw the other day someone talking about playing a blue Nemesis deck. These things are trying to come into the game and aggro needs to be ready for it because this is extremely powerful and you will get bodied by it if you are not ready. Like a lot of the decks that people are just like mindlessly going into, this is just this, and then anything built even similar to this could easily just get wrecked by it.
Yeah, I have had people like sit down and be like, okay, this team looks like Jank. And then I beat them 5-0, and they're just like, what?
Just like,
I don't understand why I can't hit you.
What do you mean Wheeljack did 1 damage?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like super rare B swings for that 7 base, and it hits for 0.
Yeah, tight.
Oh,
tight.
That actually happens. I've had Grimlock hit for 0 before. That has happened in this deck, even with Dino Chomp.
Yeah. This is the power of blue, and I think everyone needs to be very aware of that because the way we look at this game is going to start changing. Not just for this deck, but we've been playing other decks.
We have been testing a lot of blue decks. We've seen a Nemesis deck with all blue. We've seen a Battlefield Legend deck with all blue. We've seen Megatron with all blue. We've seen Shockwave.
Yeah.
Our meta is the meta that we play at is definitely testing a lot of different variants of blue. And we're starting to see less and less of these aggro decks even stand on the table at all.
Yeah, so if you're tired of getting one shot by Insecticons and Dinobots, or if you have a Nemesis Prime and you want to play the Dark Clone, try something like this out.
Also,
Really
hey,
fun.
these decks are cheaper to play than the aggro decks.
Yes.
You don't have to buy I Still Functions
Or
or
Peace
Peace Through
Through
Tyrannies.
Tyrannies, yeah.
Like, these are cheaper to play decks, minus the cost of Nemesis.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Forget that I could build 3 Insecticon decks with a Nemesis Prime.
But yeah, no, I've definitely seen, and the blue decks are they're definitely varying. I know like the different build between Nemesis, Optimus, and Megatron, they look nothing alike for being blue decks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, they share some common goals with cards and stuff, but I am seeing a lot of big differences between them, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, I think this is a good sign for the game growing in different ways. It's going to be interesting to see what they print from here to kind of like vary how different decks will be able to deal with these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for coming to our Blue Pip TED Talk. I mean Nemesis Prime Deck Profile. Thanks, Logan.